animal rights groups and environmental groups are actually very great.
Hello, you're watching Stand Up and Scream. I'm your host, Desiree Rose. Today we have Jenny Binstock. She's going to tell us all about the organization she works for, Greenpeace. Hi, Jenny. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us about Greenpeace. What do you do?
Yeah, well, so what I do, I work as a field organizer here in Los Angeles for Southern California, which basically means that I work on our campaigns here in LA, and I work with our national campaigns on a more localized strategy for what we're doing. And that involves a lot, you know. It involves doing great interviews like this. It involves working regularly with decision makers and community partners, other organizations in the area, working with a fantastic group of volunteers. So that's what I do for Greenpeace, but of course as an organization, our scope is a lot larger.
Tell us a little bit about Greenpeace. You guys are multifaceted, right?
Yeah, certainly. So Greenpeace has been around since 1971. So we're coming up on 40 years, and you know, we were started by a group of anti-war activists, peace activists, Americans and Canadians living in Vancouver, who staged a campaign to stop nuclear weapons testing off the coast of Alaska. And since that significant first action, the organization has grown to be in over 40 countries around the world. We operate on every single continent, and we work on the most pressing global environmental issues, stopping deforestation, ending whaling once and for all, anti-nuclear efforts, climate change, of course, and overfishing of the oceans. And in some other countries, we don't work on it here, but we work on sustainable agriculture and genetically modified foods elsewhere in the world.
So you're in 41 countries, you said, right?
Over 40.
Over 40
Sometimes, I can never remember number of offices versus where we actually have campaign hubs set up, but it's over 40 countries where we have a presence.
And you started in 71.
71,
And
yeah.
that's tremendous. I guess when you have a good thing going, it just catches on, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
How many members do you have?
Oh gosh, worldwide, I believe at this point we're probably around 3 million members. People who are grassroots supporter of Greenpeace.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I guess you told me that you were funded by donation or only?
Well, so we're an independently funded organization, so we don't take government or corporate money, which is very unique about Greenpeace. The vast majority of the funding that we get comes from just individuals that are out on the streets raising money by signing up monthly donors to Greenpeace. So a lot of people, you know, probably here in the LA area, see representatives from Greenpeace standing outside grocery stores, talking to people about our campaigns, and what they're doing is signing up, you know, everyday people who think our work is important enough to set aside, you know, 15, 20, 50 bucks a month to support our campaigns. And when we go up to lobby the biggest corporations in the world, or the most powerful elected officials, politicians, that is the best asset that we have, our members. We can say that, you know, we represent millions of people around the world who are demanding that you change your policies for the betterment of the planet.
Tell us about some of your successes.
All right, where to
lately,
start? Yeah, lately.
The latest ones.
Well, yeah, sure. I know. 40 years, there's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
So let's see. So we have a great campaign on seafood here in the U.S. So we have a global priority to set aside 40% of the world's oceans as marine reserves to protect important ecosystems from overfishing. And here in the U.S., a big part of working towards that global priority is a supermarkets campaign where we're actually challenging the biggest retailers in the United States, biggest supermarket chains, to adopt sustainable seafood policies. And so, you know, asking these grocery stores to commit to policies that ensure that they are not overfishing the oceans. And in the last few years, we've gotten both Trader Joe's and Costco to commit to adopting such policies, which are huge victories when you look at how these big national chains impact the market.
What kind of policies would that be?
Well, it's the biggest one is ensuring that seafood isn't sourced through a method of fishing called bottom trawling. And that's a method of fishing that takes a giant net, you know, the size of a football field, essentially, that's weighted down by large weights. And these are deep sea nets that are ultimately dragged across the bottom of the ocean floor. And I can't remember the exact figure, but well over half of what's actually caught in these nets and pulled up onto fishing boats is actually tossed back into the ocean because they're not the particular species that the ships are trawling for.
Alive or dead?
Dead. If they're not already dead, they will be soon, just from going through, pulling them out of the water and tossing them back. So yeah, there's a lot of death that occurs through that method. And the other thing to consider with bottom trawling is that we have these nets that are essentially ripping out, you know, homes for a lot of species underwater. You know, corals that are the equivalent of 100-year-old forests. You know, giant corals that have been on the bottom of the ocean for centuries, and other important habitat for sea creatures. So it's just destroying our ecosystems around the world under the ocean.
And so how did you guys arrive to get Trader Joe's and Costco to adopt these methods?
Yeah, well, I think you know, a huge part is educating consumers about the choices that they make at the grocery store. And a lot of the times, the case at a lot of these stores is that their seafood isn't accurately labeled, so consumers don't even know what they're buying a lot of the time. And that's another part of what we're asking these companies to implement, is not just to change the way they source, but better label what they're selling in their stores.
So how do I know if my seafood is bottom trawled?
Well, right. So what we have on our website, if you go to greenpeace.org and you look up our seafood campaign, is actually a scorecard that ranks all of the top supermarket chains in the country, and then you can also look up your state. So it has you know, more regionally specific stores, and it'll tell you whether or not you can look up not only whether or not your store that you normally shop at is on track to implementing sustainable policies, but you can also look up different types of species of fish and read more about how they're fished and whether they're threatened or not by overfishing practices. And you know, when you asked how did we get these stores to make the change, consumer education, and then channeling that into action. You know, asking people to take action in front of their stores, you know, petitioning or delivering messages from the community to store managers, and of course negotiations with the top level executives at these corporations as well.
Hit them in the pocketbook.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they care about what their consumers say, and that's the beauty of a corporate campaign, is if you're someone who's a customer, you know, you absolutely have a right to make a demand for the places where you shop to do better for the planet.
So Trader Joe's and Costco's.
Mm-hmm.
And as LA consumers, where else are we pretty good?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I'm not going to do a very good job of that. But what I suggest to everyone is just going to look on our website. I remember at the top, I think, of our most recent scorecard was Safeway, which is the owner of Vons. That's a California